And I guess if anybody pops in, I'll let them in. Um, so, I mean, this is what again, some of this I don't think I have to cover because both of you've been using MyLab IT and understand some of this. But, again, I don't know who's going to come on. So my hope was to be able to cover a lot of stuff. Again, a lot of it that you may know and have an understanding. But I wanted to cover, and again, this is a getting started with MyLab IT webinar. So get, coordinator member section, but you already know that. The course menu overview, I think, again, you kind of know that. The underscore student account, again, I think you have an understanding of how that works. But I'm going to show you the best practices document, where to find it in 365. And then something I call messing with the course menu. And I don't know if you all do that, but I'm going to show you that because I mess around with it big time. And then setting time zones. I think that's important, especially for you two, but I think you already do that in your course. But I'm going to, again, take you through that very quickly because we did change a setting in 2019 365 that makes it even easier and you won't get any issues. Again, the add from a library area, I was going to explain that, but I think you have an understanding of that. Folder structure, but I am going to talk about pre-built learning modules. So that's something that's new in Office 365 and that we already have, and I'll explain what those are and show you what those look like. I was going to show off simulations and show off graders. Once again, with you two here, I'm not sure I necessarily need to do that. I am going to go into the submissions and just make some reminders for you with student actions and graders and setting due dates. I am going to show you, you may not know about these filters that are in the instructor assignment calendar. So again, hopefully that'll be something new. And then I was going to talk about the computer concepts, the tech in action and folders. And then something that I hope that you use, and I'm not sure, but is instructor notifications. And again, that is something that I think is really, really useful. So that's what I'm going to try to cover in this hour. We'll see how much I get through, and then maybe if we have time, obviously we'll take some questions from you. So again, I don't think I have to talk about coordinator member section relationship, but I'll go ahead into this member section, and I know that you all, you all link from Canvas, right? Right, June, right?
I don't use Blackboard,
Oh,
but some of
Blackboard.
them, right, but I don't link it.
Okay.
Some of my professors do.
Okay. Well,
I use Canvas.
Okay, and use Canvas. That's right. Yeah. So, when you come over from Canvas, I always recommend using my course, MyLab and Mastering Course Home, so that students have this navigation right here. Now, and again, I think you all understand that in every single MyLab IT course, there is this _student account that lets you manipulate and move around. So if I click on course materials, it doesn't have that icon next to it. This is a true student view, meaning that I can go ahead and test out these things. I can click on these things. I can try them out. I can submit them. They'll go into the grade book. So I think that's a real nice benefit that you have. Now, I use the course material, the menu, to navigate between the student view and the instructor view. I know that some other faculty will use the little person icon over here, and when it's blue, it's the student view. And if I click on that, that turns green, and that goes into the instructor view. I know that sometimes is simpler toggling than clicking on the extra menus. I don't know. I like the menus myself. Now, in our 2019 365 courses, we now have this area. So in our 2016 courses, there was something called MyLab IT status site. Made no sense, but in this one, we call this product announcements and update information. So when I click on this, the first thing you're going to see are some items here. Again, these are for you only, not for students. In the announcements, you're going to see certain announcements, and we've tried to keep these updated. You'll see the last one was from January. So the reason I want to show you this is because this is something also new in our 2019 365 courses. What we are doing is not only trying to keep our grader projects updated when there's new updates with Office 365, but we are now updating our ebook. So twice a year, our ebook will get updated with anything that has changed from with Office 365 updates. Now, that could mean something very granular. It could mean something a little different. And so this was our first attempt back on January 31st. And I believe toward the end of this month, we will have our second updates going into our e-text. So what this does is it really keeps our book updated with any changes in Office 365, because students may have, a different version. And the other thing we're doing too with our Tech in Action book and our Visualizing book, our Computer Concepts books, is we are now going to be digitally updating those books also. So instead of you having to create a whole new course with the new edition, you now just keep that particular course that you're in, and the ebook will get updated with that. There's something else in here that's really nice, our release notes. So you'll see, let's say if you're using the Exploring series, you can click on that and you can see what things have been updated, whether it was a grader project, as you can see. So actually 622, there was an errant content placeholder on this slide, making this selection tricky. So this was removed. So you can see that those updates happen. The other thing we have is our Mac compatibility. So we're trying to make it much easier for you to see which of our grader projects are Mac compatible. You'll see that a lot of them are. Now we don't have Access in here because obviously Access is not Mac compatible with anything. But you'll see the ones that are, and some are not for very specific reasons, but we still want the students to be able to, if they're on a PC, to be able to do them.
Is this only for the Explorer book?
No, here's the Go book.
Okay.
Now, the other nice thing that we have this in the sheet here, and it's in alpha order. So there's Excel, and that's all the PowerPoint. As you'll see, everything in PowerPoint is almost, and there's Word.
Okay.
As you'll see. Now, one of the things that you can actually do is you click on these three dots right here, and you can actually export this to Excel. So that's a nice little feature there so that you can see which ones are Mac compatible or not when you're trying to pick your content there. And again, what we mean by Mac compatible is the students can score 100% on that. Doesn't mean that a student on a Mac still will have no idea what to do. Just saying. The other thing that's really useful in here, and I'm very excited in our 2019 courses, is best practices and how-to videos. So in here, I have a link to my best practices document. I will be updating this soon, but this goes through, things that are, in setting up your course and understanding the ad from a library. I talk about customizing your course menu, which I'll talk about in a minute, and even how tutorials on how to do it. Another document that's really great in here, and this is a student-facing document. I call it Tips and Tricks for Students. So one of the things when COVID happened, everybody went online, and I started getting emails from faculty that my Mac student can't do this on a simulation. Absolutely not true. There is one task in all of our 3,000 tasks of simulations that a student on a Mac cannot do it. And it's question 2.08 on Word in the Go series. And that one, the students are asked to do a Control Tab. They can't do that on their Mac. Some students, even on the PC, have an issue. They can use the virtual keyboard, it will work. But I had an email where a faculty said, my Mac student says they can't do a right click. Absolutely wrong. And so I've created, this is a living document. You'll see I just updated this a few weeks ago. And you give this URL to your students, because I have not only that, but grader projects tips for example, in Word, I tell them to be very careful with the Enter key. And then what I do in here is I have little tutorials on every single one of these tutorials at the most, each at this is probably the longest one at 2 minutes. And what I do is I show the students, you got this wrong. And why did you get this wrong? And that's because they added an extra paragraph, enter. And if they just get rid of it, and I explain this all in here. So this is all available to your students. This is all within the product announcements and update information. So that's, again, something new. All right. So the next thing, again, I talk about messing with the course menu. And why do I do that? I do that because it helps my students. So for example, students, when they come into MyLab IT, they're stuck on getting started. And actually, let me log in as one of my demo students accounts here. So this is a true student account. It's not an instructor account. And so when my students come in here, they're on this getting started. Now, you tell me how many students are going to click on set up MyLab IT or the student guide or even change their time zone? Exactly.
None that I know of.
None of them.
None.
So the students are going, where do I go? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to click on? Where am I supposed to go? And, you know, they don't click. Course materials, you would think, right? I have to click course materials because I need to get, right? But they don't click and they can get confused. So wouldn't it be wonderful if I could make this course materials menu item the landing page? In other words, when the students come into MyLab IT, they don't have to navigate anywhere. They get exactly where they need to be to get to the materials to do what they need to do. And they don't have to send me an email and annoy me. Right?
Right.
I'm always being nasty with my students.
They can't get this from the orientation videos?
Oh, yes. But how many are not going to watch?
Oh, I make them.
I hear you, June, but I'm just saying,
Okay.
what I try to do with my course is to try to alleviate as many as I can think of barriers that my students are going to say they have to get to the content.
I understand.
I manipulate this really a great deal, but just to make it very simple, I go into this manage course area and it automatically is on the edit course. Here's course materials. I can either highlight this and type put a 1 in there and hit enter, or put my mouse over the little bars here and 4-headed arrow, and I just take and drag it up and it's done. And then there's certain menu items that I don't care if my students ever see, and that would be getting started. And I don't want them to see notifications because that presents some data for the students that may show a wrong grade. So I'm going to what I do is I mouse over this last one and I archive that. And then I actually move assignment calendar up and grades. So essentially my students have 4 links. They have course materials, assignment calendar, grades, and the student FAQ, which is really useless too, quite honestly, but because they don't click on that. So now if I go back in as the student and I click right here, that's what my students get when they navigate. Very simple, very easy, 3 links basically that they have to figure out what to do. And they're automatically on the course materials. So that is something that I think is really useful. And I do that all the time in every single one of my courses to make it easier for my students and easier for me.
So this will reduce the number of clicks significantly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because again, if I go back out to my courses, so this is this is why I always strongly recommend if you're linking to your learning management system, that you have a single link in your learning management system that goes to the MyLab and Mastering course home. Because when they click over from your learning management system, they get this course menu. And therefore, this is what the landing page is. So there's no extra click. It's just right there. And then,
okay, I've been told at one point to link each assignment into Canvas. And I can't figure out how to do that.
Yeah. So that's done automatically in Canvas in the assignment area. You don't even have to think about it. It's done.
But how do I put it in the, I guess it'll go in the modules too?
No, you have to put it in the modules. I can show you that. I can show you that if we have some time at the end. Okay.
What I
Okay.
want to know is where did you go to change all your items in the navigation area? What did you click on to get there?
Manage course.
Manage course. Okay.
And it automatically goes on to edit course menu.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So setting time zone. I know you're all, are both of you, are you in the central time zones, right?
Yes.
Eastern.
You're in Eastern, June? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you don't have to mess with the time zone. You leave it alone.
Right.
So one of the things in MyLab IT that's important with the time zone is you do not set your dates and times until you set your time zone. So for you, June, you're good. You don't have nothing to worry about. Karen, because you're in Central, you need to set this before. So if I go to course materials and add from a library, and I see the little gear icon, I'm going to click on that. And the basic preferences is going to come up. It's going to show you that all of our courses are set to Eastern time zone. I simply have to click on change. And all I need to do is to set it here. Now, this is one of the changes in our 2019 365. There's a second setting right here, which says course override user preference, user override course preference. In our 2016 courses, this was set by default, which I hated. And do you know why?
No.
Well, if I set it to central and this is set to user, that means that the student's time zone, unless they change their time zone themselves, their time will not show correctly. And unless you as the faculty change your time zone, it won't show correctly. And we had issues with that because students do not change their time zone, even though it's very simple. So when the 2019 365 courses were going to be created, I screamed and yelled at the content team. I didn't scream and yell. I asked very emphatically to make that the default, which it is, meaning that all you have to do is to change this to central. It doesn't matter what your time zone is set for your account or what the time zone is set for the student's account, it will be set to central time or Pacific or Mountain or Hawaiian, or whatever it is. So if a student is truly outside of your time zone, they're going to have to make, figure out their time for when things are due. But most of your students are going to be in your time zone. So you change that, you click save and close, and it's done. All right.
Okay, going back, how did you know? Okay, so manage course materials is on the left-hand side. I click on that, then that takes me next to edit. Okay, all right,
Well,
and then
yeah,
Yeah.
manage. You can use manage course materials or add from a library. It doesn't matter.
okay, and for that time zone, you navigated to there from which one?
Either any instructor menu item will do this, but add from a library, manage course materials, you'll see the little preferences icon right here.
Okay, so for time zone, you went to add from library. For the first one a minute ago, you went to manage course materials.
It's the same place. You're just getting to the preferences. It doesn't matter. Either one will work.
Okay.
And this basic preferences will pop up. Okay?
Got it.
No worries.
And you can only get to the preferences by clicking on that little gear.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Now, keep in mind, there are about 350 or so preferences in MyLab IT, so it can be overwhelming. So just do a couple things.
I don't do anything.
Back there, but the time zone's important. So I think you all understand the add from a library area, where you have the course materials, and then you have the My Course side.
I just don't understand the part where it says change source.
Oh, okay. I wasn't going to talk
That's
about
what
that.
I don't understand.
Okay. Well, the change source is a way for you to be able to move content from one course to another. Okay. But one of the things you do not want to do in this, is if you're moving from 2016 to 2019, is to move any content from your 2016 course into a 2019 course. You don't do that. But,
Okay.
but the benefit of this change source is really this thing called the shared library. So let's say you're using the Go series, but you think, oh, you know what? There's a greater project that I'd like to use, or a simulation I'd like to use from the Exploring series. So a completely different book series. You go to that shared library, and now you're going to get to see every single book series and every single concept, our tech in action and visualizing technology. So I can go into the
Okay.
Exploring series. The only thing that you cannot add is the e-text. So if you're using the Go text and you were to go to add the Exploring text into your course, students would not
Can't
have
do.
access to it.
Okay. So if we took something from the Exploring and we're in Go, we just have to make sure that it's mapped to the same thing that was taught in the Go book.
Well, and that's the only issue. It's not going to be taught exactly the same as what's in the Go book. Things are going to be different in every series, but you can use simulations, greater projects. You can add the audio PowerPoint if you want.
Okay.
But that's what this
I
change
just never
source is.
understood. All right. That's what thank you.
Now I'll go back to the course materials library here, which is of the course that I'm in right now. So yeah, so that's what change source is. So this allows me, and I have a lot of courses in my list here because this is not my faculty account. But if I were to go to, let's say right here, this is going to bring up the course from that, from this Go All-in-One 2016 course, and I could copy content into it.
Okay.
So one of the things, of course, that's real important in MyLab IT is the folder structure, because MyLab IT runs like a little learning management system. And so when it comes to, again, I'll go in as my demo student. When it comes to students, you want to create folders here that have a name that makes sense, and that you want to then pick and choose and add the content you want from MyLab IT. One of the things I've seen faculty do, and I don't know that either of you do this, and hi, Dustin, and not 100% sure why you're on here, but it's great to have you. Dustin, teaches at Post University, where I also teach for them at Post. So Dustin's pretty good with MyLab IT. Am I right?
I
I just hopped in to say hi. That's all. I just want to see how things were going.
Okay, well, hang in there.
Yeah.
But I've seen faculty on the course materials library go into Word and they say, there's Word chapter 1, and click add. That is the worst practice in the world, because the folder structure that is in the course materials library was never meant for student navigation. So keep in mind, students, do not click, right? So if I'm a student, here's Word, I click in the folder, and now that's my Word. If I'm doing Word, Excel, Access, and PowerPoint, now there's Word chapter 1, and now there's my content. 2 clicks, I'm in, I can do what I need to do. If I was just teaching an Excel course, for example, all Excel, I wouldn't have a separate folder that said MS Excel. I would just have each chapter folder at the root at the My Course side. So folder structure is real important in MyLab IT, and you create materials and add a folder. As you can see here, I have one for Word, Excel, Access, and PowerPoint, and one for my computer concept chapters. Because I don't want to, if I were to, since I'm doing multiple applications, if I were to have, all of them in together, it would be a long list of scrolling for the student.
Okay. That's
So
what I
having
do.
folders and then picking and choosing what you want is important. But now in our 2019 365 courses, we have something called pre-built learning modules. So what we tried to do is to make it easier for you to add and get your course set up. A
Yeah.
pre-built learning module is one in which the students, are given a specific path, a learning path, and they have to complete one item before the next item will open up. So it's really based on mastering. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And also, by the way, and it's really easy because you go into this Word or Excel or Access Pre-Built Learning Module. I'll do chapter 2 here. And you click that, and you click that, and you click Add. And when you click Add, it already has all the content in there for the students. Now, these pre-built learning modules are completely customizable, so I can move things around and take things out, add things that I want. But what happens when a student goes into it? So the student clicks right here. And you'll notice they can't get to these things because they have to click on this first. And this is the e-text. So not only can you add content, simulations, and grader projects, but you can also add student resources. Now, if it's an e-text or a link, you simply have a click. Once the student clicks on that and the e-text opens up, and this is another thing with our 365 courses, separate from 2016, there's no extra click for the student. It goes right to the e-text. So I'm like that very much. Now that opens up. Now they get to the grader project. Now here's the other fascinating thing about our pre-built learning modules. This is built in what's called a sequential module, meaning that the student must now get a 70% or better by default on this grader project before the simulation will open up. Or they exhaust the number of attempts without meeting the threshold. And that's on every single one of these items.
Oh.
So the whole idea here is for the students to get mastery of the content. It makes your course setup very easy. But again, the students can get mastery because when they're done, all of this work, they've had to get at least 70%. Now, again, 3 attempts, if they don't get the 70%, the next item will open up. We're trying not to kill them. As I also said, these are completely customizable. So that means that if you don't like the way they are set up, you can change them. If you want to add, other things, you can put them in. If you want to reduce the threshold to 60%, to 70, or to 50, or to 1, you can. That kind of defeats its purpose, but again, it makes it easy for course setup, and you're forcing the students to go through this. Now, one of the things for me that used to make me crazy with my students, and this you'll see, they're doing the grader project first before the simulation. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. I like the students to do a simulation
First.
before the grader project.
Yes.
But I had my students, when I was using my folder structure, right? So students can go any which way that they want, right? They can start off, they go into here and they go in here and they go right to the grader project. And I'm like, and they do poorly on it. Like, why did you do that? I don't know.
But they can do the same thing on the calendar. If they go to the calendar, they don't get any of the student resources.
Correct. You can add the student resources to calendar if you want, so they can still see them. But if you use these pre-built learning modules, even on the calendar, it's a pre-built learning module. It acts as a bucket. And so what I did is I made my course set up so that my students had to do the simulation training. I bumped my threshold up to 90% because they should get 100% on this. It make me crazy when they don't. And then they had the grader project. And I was able to force them to do that. And I thought I was going to get some pushback from my students. I didn't. And the second thing was they did better on their grader projects. So think about those pre-built learning modules, again, when you're in our 365 courses, to make your course setup easy. And then again, you can customize them any way that you want.
So if I want to put my simulation before the grader, I could do that?
Yep.
On the pre-built?
Yes.
Okay.
You simply come into the add from a library or a managed course materials, click on the three dots, which is the context menu, edit, click on content, drag it up, save and
Okay.
return.
Okay.
And you can
Okay.
get rid of things if you want to. Go ahead.
Do that for me one more time, please.
Sure. I click on edit, click content. And I can, if I don't want these in here, I can take these and delete them out. I can move them around whatever way I want. I can add content if I want. Goes to the course materials library, and I can add more content if I want to add more content.
So you do that rather than the folder that you showed us before?
I do. I use these,
The pre-built.
the pre-built learning modules, which are called sequential. They're built in a feature called sequential module. And then there's reports on the back end where you can see which students have done, you know, how many, if they've made it through or not. Yes, I do. You know, for some faculty, it's something they maybe don't want to do, and I get that. But I just feel like pushing the students through a specific path really helps them in terms of, you know, learning the material. Do we have at Pearson any empirical evidence of that? Unfortunately, we don't have any educator studies right now. I've been trying to get those done as these have been used, but anecdotally, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that if you're pushing the student through a specific path, when they're done at the end, you can feel pretty comfortable that they've mastered that because they have to meet that specific threshold.
So for the simulations, you put it at 90 or maybe 80?
Well, I mean, I did that deliberately, but you know, simulation trainings I did because
Okay.
again, they in the simulation trainings they get the learning aids, right?
Right.
So
right.
they have everything that they need.
Right there.
But
right.
I have students
Most
that
of
don't
the
get
time they
100%,
get 100
and I don't understand why you don't get 100%.
because they don't read.
Because I don't know why. It ceases to. I cease to
I'm
understand.
telling you, they don't read.
That is probably true.
And that's a new feature. I like that feature.
Yep.
So I hear you saying that you use their pre-built course modules and that your learning path puts the simulations first. And I think in the past you put the exams second and the projects third. Is that true?
You choose whatever way. If you don't want, I mean, personally, I don't. This is me personally. I don't use objective-based quizzes in MyLab IT. You know, for me, this is a skill-based course. But if you know, you put them whatever way that you feel is best for you.
So you use the training and the projects?
I use the training and the projects. Yes.
And you do the one that requires the textbook, like 1A and 1B.
I don't, but again, I know a lot of faculty like to use those.
So you just use the simulation and then go right into the assessment
and
grader?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But again, this is, you know, there's no right and wrong. I want you all to understand that.
Right. But it streamlines things for them because you're getting the same thing in simulation that you're really getting in the using the textbook.
It is. My course is only an 8-week course. We do 3 chapters of Word 2 of Excel, 1 of Access, 3 of PowerPoint, and 4 of our computer concepts, all in 8 weeks. So one of the things that, you know, while I don't feel my course is watered down, I also don't want to overwhelm my students. And in the
That's it.
past, we would give them the simulation exams also, and it was just, you know, it was just overwhelming for them. So I feel pretty, and mine is just a survey course, what I teach. It's a gen ed requirement. So
That's mine.
it's really a dependent. You know, if I was teaching an advanced Excel course, I would be doing things a little differently. I would be using the simulation training, the simulation exams. I'd probably have 2 grader projects. You know, I mean, just because I would hope that the level of the students coming into that course is a little bit higher than, you know, my survey course, which is a gen ed course.
So Word and PowerPoint, you do 3, Excel, you do 2, and Access, you do 1.
Yeah, we used to do 2 chapters. We used to do the second chapter of Access, which was queries, and my students' brains oozed out of their heads so much, it was hard for me to get them pushed back in.
Right. I like
They
this.
did not understand queries, a lot of them anyway. So let me just quickly go in, and hi Florence, I didn't mean to forget about you. Let me just show you the simulations, and again, from our 2016 to 2019, there isn't a lot of difference. Let me see something. Oh crap! So one of the differences, I don't know why it's not, is that you'll see here that we've, instead of us having the text all together, we have little horizontal lines. So if they have multiple tasks to do in between, we've updated that a little bit. But essentially, you know, our simulation trainings, you know, this is Office 2019 as it looks. So there's the picture format tab. We still have our learning aids where the students can click practice. So that they would get that. Again, we allow multiple ways of completing this, you know, so if I click up here, you know, I mean, they can do it from here. I don't know where, I don't never do it from here, but I know there's a way. It's probably in position. There it is. So you notice I can click there. I think that, no, that wasn't right. Because that's not square or more layout. So you saw that was a completely different way of doing it, but it was accepted. We allow that. We have our watch learning aid, our read learning aid, where the students go directly to that specific
Spot in the textbook.
spot in the textbook and can read that. I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. We have our virtual keyboard, and that hasn't changed at all with the students. And again, they go through this, they should get 100%, and everything is tracked. So I'm just going to go ahead out of here. Just because of the time I'm looking at. So I'm going to look at my submission as a student. So if, again, you've been on our 2016 and you haven't turned on our new view submission, we have a new user interface for this, which is phenomenal, where the students would be able to click very quickly what they got incorrect, what they got correct. And of course, they got everything correct here, but they can click very easily through all of these. Our student actions are still here. So one of the things that is important is telling the students, you know, I got a 75 on here, as a student says, and the student emails you and says, I kept doing it and it kept marking it wrong. Something's wrong with the system. Why did I get this wrong? My answer back to my student is, did you go look at your student actions? And they don't know what that is or where it is. I explain to them where it is and how to find it. And the students and you can see exactly what the student has done. And you can see the little red marks because this was a simulation exam when they messed up. And you'll notice it also tracks, you see the down, down, up, up. That's my keyboard. So it tracks your keyboard, lets you see exactly what the student did, and you can see where the student is, right?
All over the place.
Well, see where it's blinking? Student didn't read. Begin where some shark species, the student should have been on the next statement. So they're saying they got it wrong. Then they look at it and go, oh, right, crap, I had it on the wrong place. And if they still say, look, I looked at my student actions and it's still marking it wrong, I know I did it right. You then look at it and you can work with your students. And if it's virtual, bring it up on Zoom, share your screen and show them that your cursor is in the wrong place. That's why you got it wrong. You were doing the right thing by clicking on insert and picture, but it wasn't in the right place. So make sure you read.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is this has been a godsend for me and in my teaching. And the other thing in the student actions is this little information. So we know that Firefox and Chrome are the preferred browsers, but we know students says, I kept doing it right and marking it wrong. And you look at it and looks like they're doing it right. Then you go up here and you notice they're on Edge or a Safari. And while those mostly will work, they are a little funky, those browsers. And you can tell the student, go try it on Chrome or Firefox, like I told you. Then you may get an email from a student saying, I tried to click on things and I can't see the buttons. Everything's hidden. 99 times out of 100, their monitor resolution is not high enough. And once again, bring up their student actions, click on the little information icon, and I will bet that their height is lower than 768. And that's why you tell them to go bump up your monitor resolution and you'll be fine. This is available for your students. This is available for you. It's an amazing feature in MyLab IT that really helps. So I'm gonna go ahead out of there.
So
we know
all of that is on view submission.
That's on view submissions, and that's on every single individual question within the simulation training and a simulation exam.
Why do we have to go in the grade book to get a view submission and not in course material?
You can go in course materials and get the view
I
submissions.
can never get the grade submission. It won't give me grade submission.
If I go
in
to
my
manage
course
course
material.
materials,
Manage course materials, when I go in there for the assignment, there's no link for grade submission. I have to go to the grade book.
no, it's in here. View submissions.
Yep, I don't. Okay. I'm teaching a summer course and I don't have it, and I didn't have it in the spring or the fall. I used to have it.
It's
but
in
I
there.
don't know
We didn't
what
change
happened
it.
to it.
We didn't change anything.
I'm gonna take a screenshot and show you. and
Take a
send it to you.
screenshot and email it to me, June.
I will do that.
And email me your course ID, because my
Okay.
guess is that you messed around with a setting that you didn't realize. That's my only guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Will do.
Grader projects have not changed really. Same thing, download, upload. They get the same stuff on the back end on that. But what I want to show you are violations. So
Integrity violation.
integrity violations. So once again, we have a new, I don't know if you've turned on the new view submission for it. You had to turn it on. If you didn't, you have the old one where you scroll, and you can't see anything, right? Well, in this new view submission on the grader projects, it'll say integrity violations. You click that, that will let you see them. And without having to drill into the student submission, you can view the violation report. In this particular case, Sam was the one who submitted. Jane was the one that gave up her file completely. And the reason you know that is that the source file check here is that there's a violation. And
Potential.
it's potential, right? But
Yeah.
meaning that the ID that was found was not this one. And then the non-matching content means that the content within it, because we embed the tokens both at the content level and at the document level within MyLab IT. So
In my course, I've had that
Mhm.
and used the integrity violations. So I assume it's going to be there. If I use one of those pre-built models, is it going to be set up the same as what I've been doing?
Yeah, so the pre-built learning modules act like a bucket, but each of the items within it is like an individual assignment. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, but
So you can only set the due date on the entire pre-built learning module. You can't set different due dates on the individual items. But within the
that's huge right there. Okay, so on the bucket, you can't set individual.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're going to have different due dates for each item within your particular folders, you should not use pre-built learning
Pre-built.
module.
You see what I said about potential integrity violation? I was called to task by a parent because it said potential.
I know.
And she said, and she argued with the board about it, and it's not true. And then they wanted to see each person's work. And I said, but you can't find the error on the work.
Right.
They copied the other person's assignment.
Yep.
So it took all of 2 weeks to get this thing together.
So the reason we call it potential integrity violation, June, is because we leave it up to you as the faculty to how to deal with it. We at Pearson don't want to say the student cheated, but the student cheated.
I know.
You know, listen, I've dealt with, we've been still dealing with an instructor at University of Pittsburgh. This one student's been a real pain in the ass, trust me. So I hear what you're saying. All we can do is that our data says that this file was not this student's file, bottom line.
Even when they copy and paste it. They
Yeah, so that's
copy
what I'm going to
from
show you.
one person's and paste it into theirs.
Yeah, so the second violation here is you'll see it says source file check none. That means that Sam used his starting file, but then he copied and pasted everything else from Jane. Or if it was just some things, it would be here. Now, one of the things, if it's, if he copied one or two things, it would still throw a violation.
Yeah.
The one thing you can't see right now is you can't drill down to see what was copied. Now, if you do get a situation like this, if you just, kind of screenshot the violation and you want me to find out for you, I have a back end tool that I can look at what was copied and pasted. I've asked the product team to actually, it's very cryptic, so it's not really customer facing right now. And I've asked the product team, that would be a great feature, to be able to see what, in this case, there's no need to because everything was copied and pasted. But if there's only some pieces of it, it would be nice for you to be able to see what was copied.
Which one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let me, again, just looking at the time, just a couple other things. One other thing that I think is real important that I don't think a lot of faculty use, and you can tell me if you two do or don't, and it's okay if you don't, it's nothing against you, but is this instructor notifications. Do either of you use this?
I only use it for late submission.
Right.
And whether I want to accept it or not, or decline. That's the only thing I use it for. So,
right. So late, that's.
I perhaps do that, but I do that in Canvas, I think. If you're talking about views, but I do use late submissions. I go at it in a different way, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so if there are any late submissions, just like you said, June, you would see them here. But the other
Right.
tile in here, now it's not showing right now because I've already been in here, unfortunately, is this new graded activities, right? So
Uh-huh.
let me,
Tell me how you use it, so maybe I'll learn something.
well, I only used the two. I used the late submissions and the new graded activities. So let me show you here.
You clicked on new graded activities.
No, I want to, where is Jane's here? There's Jane's. So the other thing I use it for is to check if, you know, so essentially what I do when I come into my course is I go to instructor notifications. I look to see if there's any late submissions and I will deal
Mhm.
with those. And then I customize this, so I get rid of a lot of this crap. And then I look at new graded activities, because the new graded activities will show me from the last time I looked at this if there's any new grades submitted. So I just submitted a grade. And then if there are any violations, I will see them right here. Instead of me drilling through the grade book to see, I'll look right here. Now, when I click on this, that means that I've now looked at this. So when I come back in later today, if there's no new submissions, it won't show me anything. And if I click on this, this will show me all the activities that have happened. And what's really nice is I can click on this little actions and click on view submissions. And without me having to drill into the grade book, it takes me to that spot in the grade book, and I can look at the violations if I
Oh,
have any,
that's
or if I want to look at my student submissions, I can look at that. And then I can close this. It'll take me back to the instructor notifications, and I can go on to the next item and look at the submissions that have come in for this day. Now, it won't only show me, it'll show me still all of the submissions, but then I can look at the date to see, you know, oh, this is what came in today, and I can look at that. So without me having to drill through the grade book, this is a really great tool in my mind. What I say is it bubbles all this stuff up to the top of MyLab IT.
But where was the integrity violation?
Well, that's the thing. What happened is there's an integrity violation on this project.
Okay.
So if I've already looked at it and another student comes in and submits it to that project and there's no violation, it will still show me the icon. So it's really a matter of me then looking at submissions and going, oh, okay, all right. I already dealt with Sam. I don't have another one. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it even though there's no violation that happened, because there were violations in that specific project submission, it will show me those in that up there. But it gives you at least, you know, I mean, what I do is I look there, I don't see any violations. I think, okay, my day is good. I move on with my life. So it lets me not have to drill through the grade book like I normally would.
That's what I do.
Perfect.
So
And this
now
is
I know.
completely customizable, so you can actually get rid of things. The other thing that's useful in here is this overall performance. Now, to be honest, I go into detailed performance. These grades don't really mean anything to me because these are just the overall average. So if I'm grading it a little differently, it's not going to help me. But one of the things is this student performance. What's kind of nice here is that I can actually see how much time, you know,
They
Jane or
spend.
Sam was spending on there. I can do a sum or an average. Again, the grade is not so much important, but I can click here. The send message doesn't work. Don't use that. But it gives you a little bit of an idea what's going on. And then what's also kind of nice is that it kind of gives you an aggregate, a little bit of an idea of what's going on inside of the folders. So you can actually drill through these, and then you can actually drill into view the submissions from here. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on. So I hope this was useful. I'm honestly up against my 4 o'clock hour here in
Okay.
Eastern time. I
Yes, you have
will
2 minutes.
I will email you
Okay.
this
Recording.
recording once it
Thank you.
gets rendered.